Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona El-Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. In today's podcast, I'll be speaking about why you cannot reason with a narcissist. And what I mean by this is why it seems that no matter how much you explain to them something or tell them how you feel, they never seem to understand or want to understand. This is something that frustrates a lot of people because people often wonder, are they playing dumb? Or is it that they really don't have the ability to fully take on board your emotions and have any value for what it is you want from them or need from them? So before I jump into this, I'd like to kindly ask you to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Just click the bell icon if you'd like to be notified about any future podcasts that I create. Please share the podcast with people whom you think could really benefit from this content. It's packed with so much information that can really save someone out there and help someone to process everything that they are going through with someone, whether it be a family member, a partner, a child, a parent, or anyone else. This content has been created to help you, so please do show your support and like the videos that you find helpful, because when you like them, you influence the algorithm in YouTube so that they appear in search results when people search for, common terms like narcissism in Islam or Muslim narcissists. And you're also helping others when you share this content. So if you've done that already, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything that you do to help me grow this channel and spread this information out there to other people. And I'd also like to welcome anyone who is new to this channel. I hope, inshallah, you find this content beneficial. Now, if you listen to the podcast and find at the end of them that you need extra support in your situation, then just drop me an email to author@themuslimnarcissist.com. The email is below in the description, and I will send you information, inshallah, about one-to-one counselling and coaching. So let's jump into this. Now, many of you who are dealing with someone who is very problematic in your lives will often wonder, why is it that narcissists are so stubborn and why you just cannot get through to them spiritually, logically, emotionally, even when it comes to religion and you're trying to explain something to them in Islam, they just cannot see your perspective. They cannot understand the way you think. They cannot put themselves in your shoes to actually look at religious text or any other text in the same way that you do. It would be so much easier, right, if we were living with people who could do that. So the key to a successful relationship with anyone, whether that be your parent, your husband, your wife, your child, would be to have effective communication where both of you have enough empathy and understanding to be able to see the other person's point of view and to be able to communicate your needs and your wants effectively so that the relationship can be harmonious, the relationship can keep going in a healthy manner. If you're unable to do this with anyone, now you might not even know that the people in your lives who you are dealing with and who are problematic in their character are narcissists. So we're just going to talk generally about people who are problematic in this situation to those who are new to this channel and don't understand narcissism yet. You will find that those who are problematic in your lives are people you cannot communicate with, people you cannot reason with. No matter how much you break something down for them to understand it clearly, they just don't get it. And you do start to wonder, are you the one who's going mad? Or are you the one who is stupid? Or are you the one who is not explaining things clearly enough? Because you will ask yourself, why does this person not understand what it is I'm trying to get across to them? Because a monkey would have understood it by now. So it can be the cause of a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, and a lot of relationship problems when you're constantly overthinking as to why this person whom you're dealing with just doesn't seem to understand anything that you say, and most often than not, does the complete opposite. And then a lot of people feel guilty, humiliated, ashamed, because now they feel clingy. Now they feel needy, because this narcissist is making them feel that what they're asking for is unreasonable. What they're asking for is too much. What they're asking for is not justified or not worthy of who they are. And this can cause someone to take a hit. in their self-esteem. People start to recoil and withdraw, and if that person is a codependent, then they will reinforce that belief within themselves that they are not worthy of what they want, what they need, and they don't bother trying anymore. That's why a lot of people who end up tolerating the narcissist do so because they've lost hope. They've lost hope in, trying to make the narcissist understand how they feel, trying to get the narcissist to do the things that they like, or say the things that they like, or act in the way that they like. They've given up. And ultimately, this is the goal of the narcissist, right? Is to make you stop asking for what you want and what you need, because their lives center around themselves only. They only think and care about themselves. They're not in your life to cater to your wants and needs. You are in their life to cater to their wants and needs. There is no reciprocal relationship here. It's a one-sided relationship. So the more you ask for things that you need and want, the more it will irritate the narcissist, because he or she wants to tell you, hang on, this isn't the deal. The deal is you serve me. I'm not here to serve you. I'm not here to make you happy. I'm not here to fulfill your needs. I'm in your life for you to serve me. And this is all subconscious, right? They're not going to say this to you directly. Sometimes they do if they're malignant. And I will do a separate podcast, inshallah, about the malignant narcissist. But they will not say this to you directly, but it will be in their actions and in their attitude. So they want to tell you directly, when you met me in the beginning, or since the beginning of time, since you started, having any kind of relationship with me, for example, let's say it's a parent. So you know this parent from childhood, from when you're a baby, and they've already conditioned you to serve them. There is no love and investment, emotional investment being put into that child. It's more about, I gave birth to you, so you owe me everything in your life. You owe me compliance, blind obedience. You owe me your money, your career. You owe me your future. Your future is in my hands. I control your future. So with anyone who is narcissistic in your life, they will act and treat you like they own you, right? You are there to serve them only. Don't expect anything from them. So a lot of people become conditioned to feel guilty in asking for what they want and what they need, because if they were conditioned and programmed into this from childhood, then when they enter adult relationships as codependent people, they will back away very quickly when they find that their needs and wants have been rejected, because it reinforces the belief again that, well, they don't deserve it. I don't deserve what I want and what I need. I don't deserve to be understood. I don't deserve to be listened to, because my parents never did that to me or for me when I was a child. So yes, it just reinforces the belief that this is how I'm destined to live my life. And you fall into this, level of compliance with the narcissist, and it keeps you trauma bonded to them. It now puts you in a position where they are the master and you are the slave. And sometimes this is backed up by their understanding of Islam. So again, when it comes to parents, they only emphasize on the part where children have to obey their parents. They do not focus or place any importance on how parents should also respect their children, raise them with love, raise them with kindness and affection, raise them with understanding, raise them to the best of their ability. They don't focus on that. They focus on the hadith that a lot of imams and scholars use, which is, paradise is at the feet of your mother, and it doesn't matter what she does or doesn't do for you. Paradise lies at her feet. She comes after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So people will use the God card. They will use that Islamic card to manipulate people into becoming slaves to them. The same thing happens with a lot of men. Men who use the obedience card, right? Women who are obedient to their husbands enter Jannah, and then they start manipulating their wives spiritually. If you don't obey me, you're going to Jahannam. If you don't do this and you don't do that for me, if you don't give up this and if you don't listen to me and do that for me, you're going straight to the hellfire. So a lot of people are manipulated by this, because if you were manipulated as a child by your parent in this way, you will also be manipulated by your husband in the same way when you enter that relationship dynamic. So you become accustomed and used to listening to, religious manipulation. You don't see it or translate it in your mind as religious manipulation. You think, well, yeah, they're telling the truth. They are saying what is right. And when the narcissist sees that your level of education in Islam is not very high, they can use that to their advantage. Because everyone knows who is educated that this is not the right understanding of Islam when it comes to parent-child relationships and husband and wife relationships. There is no slave-master relationships in any relationship we're meant to have with any other human being. Islam came to abolish the slave-master relationship. And that's why, the Sahaba were asked to free a slave every time they wanted to redeem themselves from a sin until all the slaves were freed. There should be no slave-master relationships. The people who used to work as slaves were given rights, so they upgraded to become servants who were paid for their time, paid for their work. So now there's an employment contract between them. There is no slave-master relationship. If that employee does not like the employer, they can quit, they can walk away, but a slave can't. A slave-master relationship with a narcissist keeps you entrapped in that relationship. They don't allow you to leave. They don't allow you to obtain a divorce, and they will not divorce you. They will not set you free. When you're in this type of relationship with anybody, know that you have been enslaved in that relationship, and this is against Islam. Islam has given everyone, every believer, the right to freedom. Right? The freedom to walk away when you need to walk away, the freedom to obtain your rights, the freedom to stand up for yourself. You have the freedom as a Muslim believer to do that, and as a human being to do that. So if someone is forcing you to stay in a relationship, it now becomes a slave-master relationship. And you need to revisit and readdress that relationship that you have with somebody so you can break yourself from the ties of enslavement that person has put you in, and more often than not because of the trauma bonds that they have reeled you into over time, okay, plus childhood programming and everything. So I just wanted to make that clear. I've made it clear in previous podcasts, but I just want to emphasize on that because the subject of this podcast is about why you can't reason with a narcissist, and when you can't reason with them, you end up serving them. Right? You end up neglecting yourself and your rights and your wants and your needs because you give up. You give up on trying to reason with these people, and the marriage just becomes about them, or the relationship becomes about them as a parent, as a friend, as an employer, and you start to feel that you have no place. You've got no place in this relationship, no place in this life, no place in this world. You're just floating around serving the needs of the narcissistic people around you. So don't feel bad for wanting or expecting a narcissistic person or a problematic person to understand your feelings and your wants and your needs. It's healthy to think that way, right? It's healthy because this is how relationships function. This is how relationships flourish. If you do not have common understanding and the ability to fulfill each other's needs and wants, then that relationship will never work. It will either fall apart or it becomes a slave-master relationship. But because of the narcissist disorder, they will never be able to do this. Okay, this is why it's so difficult to be in a relationship with someone like this. They are completely different as human beings because of their personality disorder and their spiritual disorder. So a lot of empathic people will feel deeply depressed living with these people because they expect everyone around them to see the world in the same way that they do. They expect to be treated the same way they treat other people, the same way they speak kindly to other people. So when they don't get that same treatment in return, it can make them doubt themselves, it can make them feel worthless, and they just wonder, why are people so evil? Why are people so mean? When all I am is nice to others. I'm always here to listen to the narcissists and these problematic people. I spend hours listening to them. I go out of my way to help them. I fulfill their wants and their needs. But when I come to ask for mine, they're not there for me. They don't have 5 minutes to listen to my problems. So what tends to happen here is the person who is empathic, codependent, they will sulk, they will go into a bit of a strop, and the narcissist will come across as someone who has no idea why you're upset after they've failed to meet your expectations of, fulfilling your wants and your needs and being there for you. So this creates extra relationship problems because they just say to you, oh, you're being a drama queen, oh, you're making problems out of nothing. Why is it that you're always creating petty problems? What is it now? What is it this time? Usually how the codependent responds to not having their needs met or fulfilled, they go into a very low mood, they get depressed, they get snappy, they just go into that sulky kind of mood because they are now giving up on expressing their emotions and how they feel. They expect the narcissist to, understand and realize why it is that they're upset. But the narcissist just doesn't seem to care or seem to know. And it's just baffling to someone who doesn't have that same disorder. It can be infuriating living with someone who has a disorder and you have no idea that they have a disorder, because now you take everything personally. Now everything becomes about you. But always remember, when you get treated badly by a narcissist, or they project onto you, or they close up and they're unable to express their feelings and, their opinions properly, it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves, right? They feel inadequate in all of these things. So what they cannot give you is what they're missing inside, and they're actually hoping to gain all their supply from you. So all their emotional needs that they cannot fulfill for themselves, they aim to get it from you. And because they are empty inside, because they cannot fulfill their own emotional needs by self-reflecting on things, seeking help, seeking therapy, seeking advice from, good people, because they are unable to do that for themselves, they have nothing to give you, right? They've got nothing that they've cultivated for themselves to give you. So all they can do is take to fill their empty vessel. And people expect them to give what they don't have. But people don't understand and know that these people don't have it to give. They don't have love to give. They don't have empathy to give. So everything that you want to obtain from a narcissist in a relationship and you don't receive, that is what they don't have to give you. So you would have married them believing that they had everything to give you because they have to, show a false self. The false self is the person they want you to see, because if they don't show you the false self, if they show who they really are, you'd never accept them into your life. You'd never marry them. You'd never stick around in that friendship. You'd never stick around in that job. So they have to present a false self where they come across as someone or people who can fulfill everything that you want and need, and that they are your dream people. They're your, the best friends you could have, the best employer, the best parents, the best husband, the best wife. They will come across as that type of person. I mean, take, for example, someone who comes across as wealthy, right? A man who pretends that he's got loads of money. He shows you that he drives the latest Mercedes, and he's all geared up in his designer clothing and watches, and he's very well groomed, all of that. So when you see that false self, you now have high expectations of the kind of life you're going to live, right? And what you're going to receive from this man financially. And then after you get into a relationship with this person, the reality sinks in that it was all a facade. You want the financial benefits of being with someone like this, and then you realize he's actually got nothing to give you. The Rolex was fake. The Mercedes was hired for a few days to impress you, and the designer gear that he had on belonged to his friend. So it's the same type of reality that you're hit with when you realize that that false self you were presented with isn't real. You're now asking for something that's not there. They cannot give it to you. And now you start to think that you're the one going crazy because you are sure that you had made a logical, rational decision when you married this person or decided to become friends with this person. You're like, well, yeah, I'm sure he, lived in a nice neighborhood and, that was his car and he did this and he did that. Yeah, it was what he wanted to show you. He took you to neighborhoods pretending, oh, you see that building over there? Yep, I live in that building. He didn't have to prove anything. You know how many women get scammed like this? Where a man will actually take them to a nice neighborhood and say, oh, that's my house over there and it's like a beautiful mansion, or it's in Knightsbridge, an apartment in Mayfair, something like that. And he'll be like, oh, I can't show it to you because my parents are there. Do you know how many women fall for that scam? And then later on, they have these high expectations that they're going to live this lavish lifestyle because this man lives in this building, or, he owns this and owns that, only to find that it was a facade. And then he'll make an excuse and say the business didn't work out and this and that and this and that. So the expectations that you have in the beginning are what lead to your downfall later. And unfortunately, when you don't know that you're dealing with someone who's got a disorder, you'll take the hit personally. Now you become someone who feels even more unworthy of what you want and need. And now you feel stupid as well. You feel stupid for accepting this person in your life. And you feel stupid because you start thinking there's something wrong with you. Because the narcissist manages to gaslight you into believing that there's something now wrong with you and what you want and what you need. Like, hey, who do you think you are asking for this and that? Who do you think you are? Or justify it. Justify what you need. Justify what it is that you want, and then maybe I'll approve it. Or they just come across as people who just don't understand. I don't understand why you need it. I don't understand why you want it. No matter how much you try to explain, it's like, I still don't understand. Sorry, I just can't get it into my head why you'd want this or need that. And it really does become so frustrating. And you can apply the same example, by the way, to someone who is religious or shows you that they're religious. When you first meet them, they might be praying all the time in the mosque, and they tell you, oh, I pray tahajjud every night. I get up for fajr, every night. I wear my niqab. I've done umrah 50 times. I've been on hajj 10 times. I've done this and I've done that. And you're thinking, wow, okay, this is the person I want to be with or be friends with. And then you find out later that the expectations that you have of them to maintain their religious character in the marriage, it disappears. You now have expectations of this person to continue being religious, to maybe teach you and be a role model for you and be a role model for your children. That's the reason why you chose to marry them in the first place, or be friends with them, because you want to be around good people who can uplift your iman and help you with your deen, only to find that these people are vile and disgusting and just horrible human beings who've got dark hearts, black hearts, and they just use and abuse and discard, friends and family members and husbands and wives. They treat everyone terribly. And then you start thinking to yourself, is it me? Have I made this person like this? Or is there something that I was missing in the beginning? How on earth did that religious person turn into this monster very shortly after marriage? Or very shortly after our friendship? Now you're finding out that this person who is a Quran teacher or goes with you to Islamic lectures all the time has loads of haram relationships, behind their family's back. And you think, oh, I didn't expect that from that person. And then they ask you to cover for them. And then they ask you, to not tell anyone that they smoke or they go for shisha or need to go to an abortion clinic to get rid of a baby that they've had outside of marriage, or to go and get a hymen operation. Oh, I've come across all these types of people in my life, whether it be at college or at university or even in the Islamic college. Believe me, I have seen things you'd never believe. Honestly, you'd never believe it. There's a reason why I'm creating this channel, because what I have to say about so much that I've seen in my life is just too much. It needs an entire YouTube channel for it. And inshallah, one day I will get through everything that I need to say. Because believe me, there's a lot that I've got like 60 podcasts already lined up in the list of, for subjects to come. So bear with me, I'm getting through them one by one because it's really important that people understand the games that they are being sucked into by vile people, okay? The expectation that you have of someone whom you meet the first time is what causes the downfall and the destruction of someone's self-esteem later when you don't understand that they have a disorder. And unfortunately, many people carry a false self. They carry a false self. They're chameleons. They can actually adapt this false self to different sources of supply. So if they need a long-term source of supply who is religious, they will put a religious facade on for them. If they want to capture a source of supply who has money, then they will come across as someone who's not after their money. And, they're able to change their character for different types of people because they have no true identity. They don't know who they are. They are all over the place, right? These are people who have no core to them. They don't know what they're doing in life. They're just floating through life. And they get through life by manipulating everyone around them, believing that they'll get away with it. And these are the true munafiqun. The munafiq or the munafiqah is the person who isn't the person they say they are. Okay, it's the person who has a false self. And the person who has a false self is the narcissist / sociopath / psychopath. Okay? These are the munafiqun because they present themselves to you as someone whom they're not. So it's very important for you to understand this because when you're unable to reason with a narcissist based on your expectation of them, you'll understand that this is where the core problem lies. It's because they presented you with a person with a facade who they're not. So when people act in random ways that you don't understand towards you, know that that's how they feel about themselves. So for example, you're a great person, you're a great friend, a great child to your parent, a great husband, a great wife, and you just feel like that person hates you for no reason. You've done nothing to them, but you just have this inner feeling, this uncomfortable feeling that this person hates you, is always angry at you, is always depressed, is always moody, is always accusing you of things. That's how they feel about themselves. They're always accusing themselves of all sorts. So for example, if they're accusing you of being crazy, it's because they feel crazy themselves. They know that they're not normal. They're angry at themselves. They're upset with themselves. They're depressed at who they are. They hate themselves. Everything that they feel and project onto you is actually how they feel about themselves because there's no reason for them to be like that. And because of this, it's very difficult for them to see things from a common perspective because they are only projecting and reflecting how they feel about themselves onto you. They're unable to receive how you feel about yourself because they don't care about how you feel about yourself. They only care about how they feel, and how they feel is not good. They don't know how to feel good. If they were to reflect how you feel, it would make them very uncomfortable because they don't know how to be happy. They don't know how to be content and loving and caring. They don't know how to be all of those things. So the only thing they can do is project what they know. And what they know is that darkness within them. So for this reason, it's very difficult to actually come to resolutions with them and solve problems with them. More often than not, you'll find that as the victim, you will brush a lot of things under the carpet just to keep the peace because you just feel like you're going round and round in circles and it's just never ending. So you get fed up and you say, you know what, just do what you want. I don't care anymore. And that's where a lot of problems escalate. Because if it was to be possible, they would actually need to feel a lot of empathy for you so that they can put themselves in your shoes and actually, really take the time to understand why you're upset, why you're asking for this, why you need this, and what your expectations are of them. And they will try to meet those expectations if they're empathic, if they have some empathy in them. But if their level of empathy is very low, you can forget any of that happening. And they will only do it when you're about to leave. They will only switch it on. They can fake it when you're about to leave, and that's how they keep you in a trauma bond. Please listen to the podcast about the trauma bond. It's very important. But they will be who you want them to be just when you're about to leave, to suck you back in, to hoover you back into the relationship. But when they're comfortable knowing that you're not going anywhere, they will not try or even attempt to see life from your perspective and actually be a decent human being and put some effort into the relationship. But their anger and their bitterness and resentment towards themselves and their self-hatred overrides everything that they could possibly do for you. It's so deep and so strong within them that it just blinds them to everything in a relationship. All your needs and all your wants, they're blinded to it because they are so consumed by their self-hatred and how negatively they perceive themselves. But they will never show that to you, by the way. They just project it onto you. They will never let you catch on. They never want you to know that that's how they feel about themselves. But this is actually what they project. So you will become the energy of the person you spend a lot of time around. Okay, that's why Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, be careful who you choose to associate with, because their energy can rub off onto you. If someone is constantly projecting negativity onto you, eventually you're going to start hating yourself as well, right? Anyone who lives with anyone who is narcissistic will start to feel depressed and drained and low energy and fatigue, and they just can't be bothered to do anything, and they get lazy and they get, they feel bitterness and resentment. That's what happens when you live with a narcissist long term. Their energy starts to rub off onto you. But when you're around empathic people, their happiness, their internal love and, the self-love and happiness and contentment rubs off onto you, and you get to see the world in a beautiful way, the same way they do. So the people whom you associate with and whom you live with will really impact how you view yourself and the world. And also the deen too, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you're around someone who is narcissistic, you will always ask yourself, why did Allah give me someone like this? Why do I have parents like this? Why do I have such a horrible husband or horrible wife? And I'm always praying and I've always done good in my life. You start to develop a negative perspective of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you're around empathic people who are always thanking Allah for what they have, they're always grateful, they're always loving and caring, they're always giving to others, you start to see their beautiful character come as a result of their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their connection to the deen. So this is how it affects you. So if a narcissist was to have a healthy relationship with you, they would need to actually address all of the negativity that's within them. They need to address the self-hatred, and they don't want to do that because it's too painful for them to do that. It's too scary for them to do that. It means that they have to go back to their childhood. It means that they would have to revisit traumas that they would prefer to be buried for life. They don't want to do any of that inner work. So it's easier for them to just project onto you. And so it's basically the equivalent of them just throwing all their trash onto you all the time, rather than them sorting out their own trash and disposing of it appropriately. And this is why it's very difficult to get these people into therapy, because they hate self-reflection. That's why they can never be alone. When they're alone, it forces them to self-reflect. It forces them to think about everything that they've done. So they always need to be out, and they always need to be doing something and being distracted with something. Even if they are alone at home, they're always on their phone. They're always watching movies. They're always occupied with something. As long as they don't have to self-reflect, then it's all good. Okay? So these are people who cannot do the inner work. And if someone cannot do the inner work, they will always rely on other people to take their trash. And not just take their trash, accept it willingly and not complain about it. And this is how they've always been since childhood. They were not taught by anyone how to process their emotions and self-reflect. This is why it's very important for you to teach your children this. Teach your children how to sit with themselves in complete silence and think about what they've done. Think about how they've hurt someone or treated someone or what they said, and then allow that child to come to you and say to you, yes, I realised that what I did was wrong. And then you ask them, why do you think it's wrong? And you will get an insight into how that child thinks, because you want to know why the child believes it's wrong rather than you telling them the reason why it's wrong. When a child does something wrong, the way you get them to critically think about their emotions is for you to ask them first, why do you think I'm upset with you over that action? And see what they say. It's always very interesting to see what they come back with. Sometimes it's not about the other person and hurting the other person. Sometimes they will say, oh, you didn't like it because you don't like it when I get away with something. That's a problem. That's the beginning. That's the seed of a narcissistic personality disorder in a child. So you correct them and you say, no, I understand why you would see it that way, but the reason why I'm upset is because when you upset other people, it has this domino effect. And you can explain to them, the consequences of what happens when they upset other people, right? You can talk to them about feeling guilty and how horrible that makes someone feel and all sorts, because you're not going to be able to teach children everything. So sometimes they will make mistakes that you haven't prepared them for, you haven't warned them about. So if you were to make that mistake, it's going to upset me. Sometimes children will do things without knowing that they're going to upset you. So when it happens, find out from them first the reason why they believe you're upset with them. And I'm telling you, you will learn so much about that child and how they think and who they've been influenced by just by reversing the question back on them. So it's important to give children the time to reflect and to get them used to sitting in silence and, thinking about their actions and how they can be better, how they can improve on behaviour and certain things like that. So if a child hasn't been raised that way, they will grow up not knowing what to do with their emotions. They just bottle the emotions inside, and those bottled emotions will manifest as anger and bitterness and jealousy, envy, hatred for themselves and for other people, because they just get a slap on the face and they just don't understand why it was so upsetting for the parent. So they bottle up negative emotions, and now they believe that, well, I'm not worthy. Now I have to create a false self that I can be proud of and that I can present to people. Even if it's not real, it doesn't matter, because I hate myself. I hate who I am. So I need to create someone new. I need to create a facade I can be happy with, because the human being part of me, the child part of me, doesn't know how to deal with emotions. So I'd rather just bury that under the rubble and just deal with the false self. The false self is a happy-go-lucky, person who can get everything that they want by manipulating and not sharing their emotions and being vulnerable. Okay, so it's important for you to understand where that comes from, why people cannot be reasoned with. It's rooted there. And if children always fear physical abuse and physical discipline when they do something wrong, they will never talk about their emotions. They'll never admit what they've done wrong out of fear that they're going to get punished. Okay, so children who often get punished, regardless of what the reason is that they did something, will always learn to bottle up very negative emotions and anger, especially towards their parents and people who are meant to be looking after them. So when they grow into adulthood, they take it out on everyone else. Okay, all that trash, all those negative emotions that they've been holding in for so long comes out on everybody like vomit. They just vomit bad behaviour and verbal abuse on everyone, because they get so fed up of being the way they are. They project everything they are onto other people, and that's why they can't stand to see you happy. That's why when you get into any relationship with a narcissist and you start demanding your rights and your wants and your needs, they're like, who the hell do you think you are? I'm the one who is owed everything because I never had it in my childhood. So you're going to take it. You're going to take all my verbal vomit, my physical vomit. You're going to accept it, because all my life, during my childhood, I had to do that with my parents. I had to comply with my parents. I had to serve my parents and fear my parents. No more of that. Now people do that for me, right? They turn into their abusers. The abusers they had when they were younger, they turn into them, because now they believe in their heads, it's my turn. It's my turn to get what I want. And they wait till adulthood to do it because that's when they have independence, right? They have the freedom now to do that. So when you start questioning their bad behavior and when you get upset because you cannot reason with them, they look at you like, do you not understand that you owe me? That you're here in my life to serve me because I had such a terrible childhood? Do you not understand that that's what you're here for? Because if you don't understand that's what you're here for, then I'm going to increase the abuse, increase the stubbornness, increase everything that I've been doing that you've been complaining about until I put you back in your place. That's what happens again and again and again. And that's why it feels like you can just never progress in any relationship with these types of people, because in the back of their minds you owe them. And you don't owe them anything, but in their minds you do. In their minds, they want to find someone, and they chose you for this reason, by the way. They chose you as the person who is going to accept all their baggage and take it on. And that's why when they see you happy and content, it just infuriates them. They don't understand how you can be that way, and they get jealous of you being that way because they can't feel that way themselves. And if they do, it's very temporary. They get temporary highs, but the majority of the time, they're carrying such a burden and they look for sources of supply who can take it off them. But they'll never tell you that. They will never tell you that you will be their emotional dumping ground when you become friends with them, when you have toxic relationships with parents, and when you get married to them. They marry you and they keep the codependent, especially the codependent or the empath, they keep them around because that person has been the emotional dumping ground, the emotional punching bag. They take out all their childhood traumas onto you. And for this reason, they are unable to mature, okay? They will always come across as being children in adult bodies because they are still stuck in their childhood trauma. They're still stuck as that 5-year-old child who didn't get the life they wanted. They're still stuck as that 7-year-old child who got abused by their father and they found it to be very unjust. They're still stuck as that 10-year-old child who never got emotional nurturing from their mother. Okay? It's many different things, but they don't mature. They always come across as very immature in their behaviour when it comes to their personal life. They may do very well in their careers and in their public life, but in their personal life, where emotions are involved and where they need to be emotionally vulnerable, no. You will always be dealing with the immature child who doesn't know how to make good decisions, who doesn't know how to solve problems, and who always puts the weight of the relationship on your shoulders. And that's why a lot of people feel so burdened and responsible for keeping a marriage going, right? That's why a lot of people take the blame when a marriage falls apart, and it's not them to blame. It's because the narcissist is not emotionally capable or mature enough to hold any relationship together. And that's why their relationships don't last. If a relationship lasts very long, it's because they're with an enabler who is a codependent to the max. They are the only people who can stay with them for life and tolerate them. So that's why they are always playing childish games, right? That's why they're always blame shifting and gaslighting and manipulating and lying and deceiving. And they do all of these things that children do because they're not mature. They deny any responsibility or accountability for anything wrong that they do. Because again, they were not taught how to self-reflect on the bad things that they did as children. And like children, like even when they're lying to you and you catch them out doing something or you catch them out lying, they will just take you through endless circles because they want to avoid the truth. They don't know how to admit their faults, right? They feel ashamed. Narcissists carry a huge sense of shame about them. So they will take you on a wild goose chase, right? They know they've been caught out doing something wrong. They know that you know, but they will still take you on a wild goose chase. They will paint you some crazy story. just to make you feel like you're the one who's seeing things or hearing things or you saw wrong. You know, they just avoid accountability so much until they start gaslighting you into making you feel like you're the unreasonable one, you're the one who's going mad. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting being taken on this wild goose chase, because they will do it until you get fed up. They will do it until you get exhausted from trying to get the truth out of them. Because facing the truth is very painful for them. It's very shameful for them. So they allow their ego to guide them rather than intelligence and reasoning and wisdom, right? Because they don't have it. So when someone isn't intelligent enough to be able to address a situation in a logical manner, then you will find that they resort to the ego to deal with that situation for them. Another thing that happens is that when you're asking for things from the narcissist to do for you, they could be chores around the house, they could be things that you're reminding them about that they promised to do a while back. They will get really annoyed and they will answer you in a very random and strange manner. For example, the narcissist may have done some chores around the house last week, and this week you're saying to them, you know, hey, you forgot to do this and you forgot to do that. You promised me that you'd do them. Instead of just responding to the issue at hand and addressing what it is that you're talking about, they will go off on a tangent and they will say something like, you're never grateful for what I do. Nothing I do is ever good enough. You're always complaining. You're always nagging. You're always telling me what I haven't done. You never focus on what I do. You this, you that. Again, they, step into child mode or teenage mode, and they will start bringing up loads of things that you've been ungrateful for. And they will say to you, remember when I did this? And it could be things from like 10 years back. Remember when I did this? Until now, you're not grateful for that. You never showed me appreciation for that. You're always this, you're always that. And you get dragged into a very exhausting rant and argument and potentially a fight over this, because he or she's gone off on a tangent complaining about something completely different to what you had initially addressed. So they will pick a fight over what you're saying because they simply don't want to do it. They don't want to do what you're asking of them. So they will flip it back on you and tell you how ungrateful you are, how much of a nag you are, that, I'm going to go out because I've had enough of this. You've given me a headache. I can't be with someone who's ungrateful. And they might leave the house, slam the door, and leave you reeling. They may not answer you for ages. You're calling them, texting them, you're a bit worried. They've stormed out of the house, and now you've forgotten everything that you had been fighting about. Now your concern is making sure the narcissist is okay. Now your concern is making sure that the narcissist comes back home in a good mood. So you decide to dismiss the things that you are asking for because the attention has now shifted on this new problem. And the narcissist will only come back round when he or she realises you've forgotten about what it was that you asked from them. When you're no longer asking them to do certain things, you've decided to keep the peace by staying quiet and dismissing it and going without and maybe doing it yourself. So for example, if you'd ask them to take the bins out, you may just go and do it yourself. You may go and do the shopping yourself, whatever it is. The narcissist will calm down when he or she sees that you do that, because now they've managed to manipulate you into getting away with it. And they've also taught you the next time you nag them or complain or call them out on something or remind them about something that they promised, they've taught you now that this is what's going to happen. They've taught you a lesson. They've taught you to never do that again, because if you do that again, the same thing's going to happen. And codependents don't like confrontation. They don't like fights. So someone who is highly codependent will avoid asking the narcissist for anything, and that's how they go without their needs being met for a very long time. And this is what grows the resentment in the heart of the codependent. They grow so much anger and resentment and bitterness because they end up doing everything themselves. They don't get the support from the narcissist to do certain things, right? Even if it's, about picking up the kids, taking the kids to school, arranging dinner because, the partner's unwell or the child's unwell. So they find a way out of it. They wriggle out of it by creating a new drama that would distract the person from the initial problem so that they can be let off the hook. And they will also be offended when you call them out, on things that they've done, mistakes, things that they promised to do but didn't do. They will have their egos wounded by that because they can never be wrong. In their eyes, they're gods. How dare you? How can you, paint me out to be the villain here, but the one in the wrong? No, they get offended and they go into this defensive mode. They defend themselves aggressively. And when they defend themselves aggressively, they can be very intimidating to you. And that's done on purpose. So them cowering over you, shouting in your face, or just coming very close to your face when they're in defense mode, it can cause someone who is dealing with them to just back off and not bring it up with them again because they've been intimidated. It's a tactic. Loud shouting, tantrums, screaming, hitting themselves, being physically too close or threatening physical violence when they're being defensive, all of that can intimidate somebody and stop them from holding the narcissist accountable for anything. So they have to paint you as the villain in order to get away with, not being held accountable. And then after a period of suffering, so they have to make you suffer for a while because that's your punishment for holding them accountable and complaining. They will allow you back in, to their good books. Like, okay, fine, I forgive you now, but you have to make it up to me. They reel in more supply this way as well. Can you see how their manipulation works? That's how they reel in more supply because now you've got to make it up to the narcissist for upsetting them. That's how they work. This is how they operate. And the sooner you learn this, the better. So it doesn't matter how valid your points are. It doesn't matter if you bring evidence. It doesn't matter if you bring all the logic in the world. Okay? All intellectual reasoning, all wisdom, all facts. You could bring everything to them. You could bring them evidence of things that they'd promised, that they haven't fulfilled, screenshots, messages, the lot. You can bring it to them and hand it to them on a golden plate and they will still deny it. They will still lie to you and they will still insist that their truth is the only truth that matters. So the way that they see things and want to see things and want you to see things will trump everything else. That's the goal in every discussion where your needs, wants and complaints are being presented to the narcissist. I mean, another example could be that they made fun of you in front of other people. It could be your parent. They might have said something in front of other people that made you feel really ashamed or embarrassed. And maybe people laughed or they looked at you in a weird way. And then when you went home, you addressed it with them and you said, look, I really didn't like how you said those things in front of all those people. You really embarrassed me. And they laugh and they're like, what are you talking about? I never said that. Or, oh, you're such a sensitive person. You just want to create problems. You're such a drama queen. Why do you always think the worst of me? You always think worst of your mother. You always think the worst of your father. I didn't mean it that way. You're the one with the problem to see things in a negative way. You're the one who's not good to see, to understand or translate that situation into that understanding. You're the one with the problem. You're the one who doesn't like me. You're just finding any excuse to have a problem with me. That's what they'll say. If you accuse a narcissist of being angry, of being vindictive, of being a liar, they turn it around on you. I'm the liar? You're the liar. Do you remember when you lied about X, Y, Z? Do you remember when you did this and this and this and this and this? And they'll bring up your past, again, to distract you from the initial problem. They will bring up so many irrelevant things. They'll bring up your past sins from 30 years ago just to prove a point, right? Just to deflect from them. So when you accuse them of something, then be sure that it's going to backfire on you and be projected back onto you. So if you accuse them of cheating as well, they'll be like, oh, you're accusing me of cheating. Actually, I've always thought that it's you, the one who's been cheating. You're the one who's shady with your phone. You're the one with a passcode on your phone. You're the one this, you're the one that. If anyone's going to be cheating, it's going to be you. Give me your phone. I actually want to check your phone right now. Give it to me. What's your passcode? You see how they flip the narrative onto you, and now it becomes a different problem. Be very wary of this, because this is something that can actually make a lot of people lose their minds. Okay? They lose their minds, they go a bit crazy, they go into their own internal rages, and it can sometimes result in someone wanting to actually kill the narcissist. You'll actually fantasize about it, because this is what they do every single time. You will get to a point where you actually wish a bus would hit them on their way out to work the next morning and that you never see them again. Because this is how much trauma dealing with someone like this can bring to you when you cannot reason with them time and time again. I'm creating this podcast because this is a serious problem out of loads of serious problems that you can face when dealing with a narcissist, but this is one of the primary ones that can cause a lot of people to really hate the people they're with, even if it's their own parents. Do you know how many people I come across who really hate their parents? Like they hate them with a passion, they wish they were dead. And then you get shiokh telling them, it doesn't matter. You have to obey your parents. You've got to respect your parents. You've got to be nice to your parents. It's very difficult for people to do that when their parents are so vile. I've heard horrific stories from clients, wallahi. So I sympathise with people who are going through all of this. It's not a one solution for all in Islam. It's not a one solution for all. Everyone has different cases, and we need to start learning how to deal with these problematic people, especially when they're your parents. So yeah, this is one major thing that they do. They will always bring it back onto you. They'll make you feel like you're the one who has something majorly wrong with you. If you call them out on something and you say to them, you're really not a nice person, you're such a narcissist, it might come out, right, in a fight. You might accuse them of being a narcissist or a psychopath. They will turn it around on you and be like, oh, funny that you say that. It's actually you who's the psychopath. Do you remember when you did this? Do you remember how you reacted the other day when you smashed up the whole place? You would have done that out of reactive abuse. Reactive abuse is when the narcissist pushes you to breaking point and you start acting in a very abnormal way. So you might go into a rage yourself, a tantrum yourself, you start smashing things. Sometimes they record these things, sometimes they don't, but they'll never forget them for you. They will always remind you that they saw you in your crazy stages. Yeah? So when you call them out, as being a narcissist or whatever, they will be like, oh, funny you say that. I've got evidence of you being a complete loony. Do you remember when you smashed up the place? Do you remember when you did this and that? Be careful, before you accuse people of being crazy, because I think you need to look at yourself in the mirror, love. That's what they do to you. They will hold on to anything they can use against you, wallahi, even if it's from 20 years ago. They will still bring it up. That's why you should never tell narcissists your secrets, by the way, because they'll bring them up again and again and again. If you call them out on not being religious like they say they are, they'll be like, oh, you care about my religion? Remember 30 years ago, before I married you, you did X, Y, Z. You would have repented from those sins, forgotten about those sins, and they bring up your trauma again and again and again by reminding yourself of those sins that you committed. And it brings up the guilt and the shame again and again and again. They do this. You tell narcissists your secrets, you've dug yourself a grave. They want your secrets in the beginning so that they can use them against you in these exact moments. Don't let them reel your secrets out of you, your past sins. You don't have to reveal your past sins to anybody. In fact, Islamically, you're not even meant to. Okay, even if you had a terribly dark past, don't say it, don't mention it. Because when those secrets land in the hands of the wrong person, they'll blackmail you with it, threaten you with it. They will use it to project onto you. They will use it as an excuse to get out of accountability. So when you accuse them of being bad, like in their behavior, if they've cheated, they'll be like, oh, do you not remember when you did this and that? Don't think that you're a good Muslim. Don't think that you're a good person. Do you remember 20 years ago when you did this and that? And it would have been a secret that you told them. Don't do it. Okay, if you're not married yet and you come across somebody and they want to know your secrets, be warned. A good person will never ask you for them. Okay, a good person will take you for who you are today. So it's just one of the things, one of the tools that they use to get their way when you need something from them and they don't want to give it to you, or when you accuse them of something, or when you hold them accountable. Okay, past sins, past mistakes, your reactive abuse, your anger, things that you did before you met them, before you married them, all of that, they hold it as ammunition to use when the time is right. And that's why a lot of people, they are kept trapped in their sins that they've repented from for many years, because the narcissist keeps reminding them of those sins. Again, parents do this a lot as well to their adult children. Do you remember when you were younger and you gave me that problem? When you got into drugs and you got the police to my door and you made me ill and I got my cancer because of you and I got this and I got that. You brought shame on the family. You did this and you did that. Oh, they'll never make you forget it. They don't allow you to move on with your life after you've repented. And again, this is a qareen problem. All right, their qareen does that to you so that you despair. You lose hope in actually becoming a better person and actually moving on with your life after you've committed those sins and repented. Allah tells us when you commit a sin, khalas, let it go after you've repented and made up for it. Let it go. Forget about it. But your qareen wants to keep you in that guilt, in that shame, because they're low vibrational energies where you're always depressed, always feeling low, anxious, upset. Yeah? The qareen wants to keep you there. That's why people get PTSD, because of long-term suffering. That's unnecessary. You're dragging out all your traumas unnecessarily. That's how people get PTSD. It's from the qareen. Qareen keeps you in that mindset of, I don't think I've been forgiven by Allah. I keep getting reminded of my sins. This must be a sign that Allah's not forgiven me yet. I'm not able to move on from this. I keep getting reminded. It's a sign from Allah. He's not accepted my repentance. This is what your qareen is telling you. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear, because this is a major problem I hear from a lot of people who I counsel. That their parents and their friends and their partners keep bringing up their past sins and don't allow them to move on from those sins. It's haram to do this to anybody. It's actually haram to bring up anyone's sins, whether they've repented or not from them. Especially if they've repented, and you know that they've repented, if you bring up someone's sins, you'll be accountable for that on the Day of Judgment. Because it's like digging up graves. After you've buried someone, it's the equivalent of you continuously digging up a body from its grave. That is how disturbing it is to continuously dig up people's sins that they have buried in the past a long time ago. They have negative glasses on all the time. So even when they come across good people, they believe those good people are manipulating them. They believe that good people are taking advantage of them and lying to them and projecting onto them because it's who they are. Okay? Yes, they see the good, but they will always allow their ego and their qareen to dictate to them how to understand the kindness and the empathy of someone towards them. Like, oh, they want something from me. Oh, they're trying to manipulate me. Oh, this person's fake. They must be another narcissist trying to, play games with me. That's how they see good people. It's only later down the line when it hits them that actually this person really is a good person. But in the beginning, when they're dealing with you, they think all good people. They don't believe that good people exist. They don't, because they don't believe that they're good. And if they don't believe that they're good, they believe everyone else is the same. They believe everyone else is, playing the same games and applying the same manipulation tactics. So they never trust anyone. Narcissists don't trust anybody because they don't trust themselves. Okay? So it's important to understand that as well. It takes a narcissist a very long time to come to the realization that the people around them, the empaths, are really truly like that. And that's a crisis for them. Because it means that if there are good people in the world, then I really am evil. Okay, reality sinks in that they are not good people. It confirms to them that they have something really wrong with them. So they'd rather see good people in a negative way, again, to run away from who they are as people. They're running away from viewing themselves as evil and bad people. Because if they can see you as the empath, as an evil person as well, who's got a disorder and you're manipulative and you're a liar and this and that, it makes them feel better. They're still running away from that inner work and actually addressing their own issues. So that's why you will always feel like you've always done something wrong to them or something wrong, to upset them when they just cannot reason with you. No matter what you do or say, even if you try writing it in a voice note, you call them, you sit down with them, you get a mediator, nothing works. Because this person has a disorder and sees the world and sees life and sees relationships and sees you in a completely different way to how you see yourself. So if you allow the narcissist to affect you with the way they see you, they've won. Right? They've won. Now, you start to believe the narcissist version of you, that you're not worthy, that you are stupid, that you don't know how to communicate, that you're the one who's always creating problems. Do you see how that can transition onto you? When before, you saw yourself as someone confident, happy, intelligent, logical, reasonable, smart, caring, empathic, compassionate. Now all of a sudden the narcissist has made you feel like you can never get it right. You can never do anything right. And that there's something wrong with how you communicate and how you have relationships and how you maintain a relationship. And when you try to ask them, what is it that you want me to do then to communicate my needs and wants efficiently, they don't know how to tell you because they don't actually care about any of that. They don't want to hear your wants and needs. Okay? They only want you to know how to please them. They just want full obedience, full compliance, do what I need you to do, and we're happy. I'm happy, right? You will find that the best times you will ever have with any narcissist is when you are completely selfless, when you make life completely about them, when you give them full compliance, full obedience, you neglect all your needs, your rights, your wants, you neglect your opinions, you neglect standing up for yourself, you neglect everything that will hurt their ego, like complaining about them, calling them out on things that they've done wrong, holding them accountable for things. Oh, if you neglect all of that, you'll have the best time with that person. You and the narcissist will be great. And I bet you anything, if you look back on your greatest memories, your happiest memories with any narcissist, you'll always find it's at the times when you were completely selfless. And they would have rewarded you for being so selfless with something that you wanted later down the line. Okay? They'll give you something like flowers or a gift, or they'll take you out to dinner, or they'll just do something for you to reward you for being so selfless. So when you give them everything that they want, you'll get a breadcrumb of a reward. And that now turns into a happy memory for you. That tiny little thing that they did, that bouquet of flowers that they got you that day, that date night that they took you on, the day that they told you they were so proud of you as a parent, all of that now turns into a happy memory with a narcissist. Can you see how they're all just false illusions? All those happy memories that you hold on to that cause you to not leave a toxic relationship were all breadcrumbs of reward for you being selfless. Because as soon as you take that away and you start thinking of yourself again, problems happen. Now you've got problems again. And now all of a sudden, when you ask for something that you want or need, the narcissist is like, no. Or they just pretend to not understand. Or they'll get you something completely different to what you asked for. For example, you might say, for my birthday or for our anniversary or for Eid, I would really like you to get me, I don't know, a cat. And they'll turn up with a dog. They'll turn up with something completely different, but it's what they want and not what you want. Something that is of benefit to them and not you. Something that they can use. They won't get you what you want when you ask for what you want. They only use what you want to reel you back into a relationship or to reward you for being selfless. Those are the only 2 times you will ever get what you want from a narcissist. And it's not a great grand thing. It will always be a breadcrumb. Like a bouquet of flowers. A bouquet of flowers, wallahi, has reeled so many women back into toxic relationships just from receiving a wonderful bouquet of flowers. They're like, oh, he does care. He does love me. He finally bought me flowers. He's finally changing. This is an indication that he can change. Or a woman starts to dress up nicely for her husband again. And then he's like, oh, alhamdulillah, there's hope. There's hope that she can do all these things for me. She can dress up for me. She can look nice for me at home. I don't have to look at her like, looking homeless every day with her greasy hair and her pyjama top that doesn't match with the bottom part of the pyjama set, mismatching underwear, holes in clothes and all of that. Yeah, a lot of narcissistic women do that. The most glamorous of women, by the way, whom you see in public. They have terrible hygiene at home. They don't dress up for their husbands at home. They get too comfortable. And they enjoy not giving that to men. They enjoy it. Believe me, they love to see you suffer. So they withhold what you want because they know it's going to work when they want to reel you back in. All of a sudden, the glamorous woman is back when you're about to leave, when your foot is out the door. All of a sudden now, she's in lingerie and she's in a beautiful dress and she's got her hair done for you. She's got her nails done for you that have been chipped for ages. Yeah, she's done all that for you now. They will only give you what you want at those 2 times. Whenever you ask for what you want, you either never get it or you'll get something completely different. Because they want to make you understand you are not here to be served. You are not here to be loved and put on a pedestal. It's all fake. All that love bombing was fake. You are here to serve me. So you don't get to demand from me what you want. I give you what you want when I want to give you what you want. I will do that when I want to. I will go to marriage counselling or family counselling when I want to go because you serve me. I will get you that bouquet of flowers when I feel it's the right time. It's not the right time right now. You're still with me. I have no fear of losing you. I'll give it to you just before you leave. Or after you leave. This is how the game works. Because they don't like to give. They don't know how to give. And when they give, to them it translates as them losing their power over you. Because now they feel belittled and humiliated, like, oh, I don't want to serve her or serve him. A lot of parents have that attitude as well. Oh no, I don't do things for my kids. I don't go out of my way for my children. My children serve me. My children bring everything to me. I don't have to do anything. I carried you for 9 months. That was more than enough. They have that attitude. Okay, so again, very important for you to understand this. They do not listen to what you want. What you communicate to them, they don't listen to it. All they're listening to is their internal dialogue. The internal dialogue between them and their qareen. And their qareen keeps them in that state of mind of self-hate and self-loathing and self-resentment. All of those negative emotions. This is where the qareen comes into play, and I've spoken about the qareen a lot in my previous podcast. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back to the podcast about the narcissist relationship with their qareen and the codependence relationship with their qareen. I'm going to do another one, inshallah, about the empath's relationship with their qareen, okay? So for now, I just want you to understand that when you communicate with them, they're not listening. They're not listening. They're just listening to that waswas in their mind. Because remember when I told you that narcissists are controlled by their qareen? So the narrative of their life is run by that jinn entity. Okay? That's where they get all their evil thoughts from. It's like they just cannot break free from all that self-hate. So every time someone communicates something to them, they negotiate with their qareen in their minds. Oh, so, okay, how am I supposed to understand what this person is saying to me? Oh, this person is saying to you that you are worthless, that you are useless, that you don't understand anything, that you serve me, that you're meant to do things for me. And the qareen's like, no, remember what you're here for. Remember what you're here for. You do not belittle yourself and accept the demands of the empath, the soldiers of Allah. No. You're above that. You're way above that, right? You work for Iblis. Iblis has the upper hand here. They serve you. You get the empath to serve the demon, not the other way round. And so the narcissist is always reinforced every time they have an issue with you. The qareen reinforces it in their minds to put that empath back in their place. Right? That soldier of Allah, put that soldier of Allah back in their place. Iblis rules in this situation. Iblis has to have the upper hand. So the qareen keeps the narcissist in their trauma bond. The narcissist is trauma bonded to their qareen. Okay, they're trauma bonded. So when a narcissist gets their way, when they get away with something, or they realize that, oh, wow, look at me, I've got power because the empath walked away, or, they gave up and they brushed under the carpet, or they surrendered to the argument, surrendered to not finding out the truth, surrendered to the abuse. The qareen rewards them with an ego boost, and that's why they act all smug and cocky, and, they get arrogant. They're like, yes, I'm the man. Or I'm the woman in this situation. I'm the boss. Yeah? I have control over you. That ego boost is the reward from the qareen. And that's why they get so arrogant when they get their way, or when they get away with something. They just smirk. They have that smirk like, yeah, remember who you're dealing with, right? Remember who you're dealing with. I'm a soldier of Iblis. I got a one-up on the soldier of Allah. Always see it that way, because that's exactly what's happening. These people don't want to resolve issues. They don't want marriages to work because they're ruled by their qareen. The whole point of the qareen messing with the narcissist's head is to make sure that parent-child relationships are destroyed, friendships are destroyed, marriages are destroyed, and, employee-employer relationships are destroyed, because even though the narcissist self-sabotages, so the qareen is also the enemy of the narcissist, right? Because he's not working in the favour of the narcissist, he's using the narcissist. He's using this human being to get what he wants out of the situation, because he's got a mission with Iblis. So he's using this human being to destroy the lives of empaths so that no one can have a healthy relationship with anybody. And if people don't have healthy relationships, if all the relationships we have, or the majority of relationships we have with other people are toxic, this entire ummah will crumble. And that's what's happening. This is why we have so many social issues as Muslims. We're catching up. We're catching up to the Western social issues. Everything that they're experiencing now is going to catch up to us eventually. You will soon see Muslim men have 4 or 5 children from different women outside of marriage. Wallahi, I'm already seeing that. You'll see women get pregnant from boyfriends, Muslim women. And the entire ummah will turn on its head because of all of these issues that narcissists have with their qareen that is being rubbed off on everybody else. So not only are you dealing with your qareen, you're dealing with their qareen as well, which is even more powerful than the qareen you have, because you actually have some element of control over yours. But when they don't have any control over theirs, and they are now setting that loose on you and your relationship, it's very difficult for people to maintain any kind of relationship with a narcissist for that reason. So all the negative thoughts that they get about you during a discussion, a fight, an argument, or when you call them out on something, the negative perceptions of you that they have come from their qareen, comes from that waswas. And that's why they act very abnormally, and they just become very dramatic. And they act in a way that's just not appropriate or logical. It just doesn't make sense why they would react in such a dramatic way or in an aggressive way over something very petty if you don't understand that there's a narrative, there's a conversation going on in that person's head. If you do not understand that there is a conversation happening, you will not understand why these people just cannot reason with you. They cannot understand. Again, every time you ask for something, the qareen says, remember who you are. Who are they to ask you for anything? No. You don't bow down to their demands, they worship you. We are the ones who are to be worshipped. And the narcissist will find any excuse under the sun to not give you what you want. For no reason whatsoever. There's no reason for it, there's no justification for it. But they will find an excuse to give you. I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I've got this, I've got that. Like, even if you want your Islamic rights, they will give you every excuse under the sun. I'm too tired. I've got a headache. I don't feel like it. I want to go out. I want to do this. I want to do that. When your rights are a priority, but they will find loads of excuses because their qareen keeps telling them, you don't serve the soldier of Allah. We don't do that. That's not the deal. And if you do not fulfill the contract I have with you, I'm going to torment you in your mind over it. I'm going to torment you. And that's the reason why, if a narcissist does anything nice for you, it doesn't have to be a special occasion or something. Like, they will give in and do what you want. They will just act moody the whole time, right? It might be your birthday. They might do something nice for your birthday, take you on holiday. They're moody the entire holiday. They're moody throughout the entire party or celebration or during Eid. Because they've let you have your way or given you what you wanted, their qareen now torments them. You stupid idiot. You could be easily manipulated. You're stupid. Oh, she's wiped the floor with you. Oh, you've let her get away with this. Oh, this, oh, that. And they sit there and simmer in their negative thoughts. The next time you go on holiday, or you go and do something nice as a family, or, it's a birthday party or whatever, right? Watch the narcissist. You will see that they are moody as hell. It's no coincidence. Their qareen torments them for letting you get your way. The qareen will only be okay with it when the narcissist gives you what you want to reel you back into the toxic relationship. They will feel, oh, look at me, I'm so smart. I managed to hoover that person back in. They get an ego boost. Well done. Clap, clap. You managed to get that person back into your life. And this is why when a narcissist cannot hoover an empath back into their life, they are depressed, wallahi, for the rest of their life. You think that comes from nothing? Their qareen torments them over it, over lost supply, over lost platinum grade A supply. There is no one more valuable as supply than the empath. They can never get a super empath. Super empaths never end up with narcissists. They're too smart. But a high-level empath that got away, the one who got away, the one who ran for the hills when they realised what they were dealing with, that person will leave the narcissist depressed all their life. Because the human part of that narcissist is kicking themselves for not doing what it took, what that empath asked them to do to keep that relationship going. The empath would have said, in order for me to stay in this relationship, I need you to do X, Y, Z. The qareen is telling this narcissist, no, you don't go to counselling. Who do they think they are? No, you don't. You don't marry them. You don't do this. You don't do that. So the human part is depressed that they lost such a valuable person. And the qareen is tormenting the narcissist for letting grade A platinum supply slip away. And then they torment them even more when they cannot hoover that empath back in. That is why you find narcissists, no matter who they marry, no matter how many children they have, no matter how successful their businesses are, they will always be deeply depressed until they die over that lost grade A platinum supply because their qareen doesn't leave them alone over it. I'm telling you, that's what happens. That's why they're always depressed. You see them with the new supply, they're depressed. Lost grade A platinum supply is the worst loss for a narcissist, and it's the one the qareen doesn't forgive them for. The qareen can let it slip if they lose the back burner supply, the narc supply, the toxic codependent. Qareen doesn't care about them because they're already corrupt. You don't need to reason with people like that in the mind of the narcissist. So when a narcissist makes it look like they cannot reason with you, that it's just too difficult to explain things to them, not only do they not see the world from your perspective, sometimes it really is a proper disorder where they just cannot understand it at all. And sometimes they play dumb. If they have more emotional intelligence and they actually understand their emotions, they know that they're bad people, they know that they have a disorder, then they will just play dumb. They will pretend to not understand what you're telling them. They will pretend like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They will gaslight you to the moon and back until you let go of their argument or, holding them accountable for something. I'm telling you, they won't let it go until you get so fed up of dealing with them that you either leave, and if you're not grade A supply, they won't care if you leave, because now you're a nuisance to them, right? Because you're holding them accountable. You're holding them accountable for things they don't want to be held accountable for. The qareen is like, let's just leave this headache. She's a narcissist. You're dealing with another narcissist. You're dealing with a codependent. Forget this. This is not grade A. This is not empath level. Let it go. So they discard you because you've become a headache to them now. They now need to go and find fresh meat they can manipulate. And it's very hard for them to capture grade A supply. Very hard. So when they do, the qareen really rewards them for it. Really rewards them for catching an empath. But they can't keep an empath because they cannot reason with an empath. They cannot meet the emotional intelligence level of the empath. They cannot understand the needs of the empath, and they don't realise that the qareen is messing up that relationship for them. So the qareen is with and not with them. The qareen is with them in the sense that they've managed, with the qareen's help, to capture an empath because they've put up a false self, right? The qareen helps them with the false self. Qareen tells them what to do. But at the same time, they don't allow the narcissist to stay with the empath. And an empath will leave a narcissist when they can no longer reason with them anymore. Okay, when they just get so fed up of dealing with all the rubbish that the narcissist comes with, and not getting their needs and wants fulfilled in the relationship, and then the empath decides to leave. Because remember, the high level empath is the one person a narcissist never discards. A narcissist will discard everybody, just not the empath. They will reverse discard the empath, so they will keep devaluing the empath until the empath gets fed up and walks away. But the narcissist, because they're never fully done with the empath, there's still a lot that they need to obtain from the empath. There's a lot of supply in the empath. It's like a minefield of supply that they can get from someone who has a high level of iman, high level of intelligence. They're successful in their work. They're successful in their relationships and in society. They've got status, they've got this, they've got that. There's a lot for them to gain from the empath. So the empath always leaves the narcissist when the narcissist is not ready to let the empath go. So if the empath leaves the relationship, the qareen will torment them over lost supply, okay, for not being able to destroy that high-level empath. And it's because the empath cannot reason with the narcissist. They realise that, me and you just are not on the same level. We do not see the world in the same way. And I can't live with someone like that. It's too difficult to live with someone who just sees the world so differently to how I see it. And the empath will always choose to leave rather than stay. The empath just doesn't waste their time trying to change somebody. They try to help someone, but they won't stick around to try and change someone whom they know it's just going to be a waste of time. I can't be bothered to be dealing with this. Go and find someone on your level, and I'll go find someone on my level. So the qareen wants the narcissist to destroy the empath, but at the same time, because of the narcissist's childhood trauma, they're unable to meet the empath at an emotional level where they can fulfill their needs and their wants to keep them in the relationship. Can you see how it's such a mess in the minds of these narcissists? Their childhood trauma keeps them back. And the qareen can do nothing about that, right? The qareen can't do anything about that, because when a narcissist is so affected by their childhood trauma and the qareen needs to keep them there, to keep them narcissistic, then the qareen can't manipulate this person now into believing that they're healthy and good people, because the qareen himself or herself is evil. Okay? They cannot teach the narcissist how to be good because they themselves are evil. Again, they project onto the narcissist. The evil within the qareen is projected onto the narcissist, the same way the narcissist tries to project their evil onto their victims. There's triangulation happening here. Okay? And this is why a narcissist can never keep an empath for very long. So the qareen's disability is not being able to teach the narcissist how to manipulate others into believing that they are good long term. And that's why grade A source of supply will always leave them in the end. Because the evil jinn cannot teach people how to be good because it's not within them. It's not who they are. So they bounce off each other. Okay, the qareen's not getting what he wants or what she wants, which is, fulfilling the mission of Iblis, of destroying the empaths who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at the same time, the narcissist isn't able to grow in life as a person, because when they do get hold of someone who can help them, they do not have the emotional ability to reason and meet the needs and wants of an empath. They can't do it. And the reason why they can't do it is because they are under the control and influence of the qareen, and they don't do the inner work to help themselves. When I create these podcasts, it's for narcissists too to listen to as well. I want narcissists to listen to these podcasts. I know they're long, but I'm telling you, if you understand what I'm saying, you can get the help that you need. This is the help that you need to get out of your toxic cycle, to get out of your trauma bond with your own qareen. You are in a trauma bond with them. You're bouncing off each other, and you will allow the qareen to ruin your life because you are not doing the inner work. So what if you need to face your childhood trauma? Isn't it better than living the rest of your life like this, feeling shame and guilt and regret because you lost good people in your life who could have helped you and helped elevate your nafs and helped you to become a better person? That's why it's a choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask everyone who has a brain, why didn't you do the inner work? You knew something was wrong with you. The evidence was in the people around you who always had problems with you, the people who were abused by you, harmed by you, who had complaints about you all the time. Isn't that enough evidence that there's something wrong with you? Why did you not address it? Why did you not fix it? Did you not understand what I said to you in the Quran? Did you not understand the Prophet's message when he said, the best of you are those who are best to their families, and those who are best to their families have high moral character? Did you not understand that? Oh yeah, you'll be standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering for that. You may get away with not being held accountable by people in this dunya, but you will not escape the accountability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He holds you accountable for how you lived your life and what you did with this knowledge. This knowledge has come to help you. So never expect to be able to reason with a narcissist. Don't expect it, because they can't. And even if they try to, their qareen will shut them down because they're not strong enough to overpower their qareen, elevate their nafs, do the inner work to heal, and actually have healthy relationships with people. So it's not you going mad when people don't seem to understand you, even though you literally spell it out for them. A, B, C, D, E. This is what I need. 1, 2, 3. And they still don't understand. They're still playing dumb. They still don't understand why it hurts you. They still don't understand why you're upset. They cannot justify why you're upset that they went and took a second wife behind your back. Or why you're upset that they never dress up for you at home, but they dress up for their friends. Oh, they just don't understand things like that. Why are you upset? I don't understand why you're so upset. I don't understand why you're so upset that I didn't remember our anniversary. What's the big deal? Why are you creating problems? Why do you not understand Islam in this way or this hadith in that way? Are you stupid? Are you dumb? Who taught you Islam? Who did this? Who did that? That's how they'll talk to you. And that's why an empath, a high-level empath, will never stand for any of this rubbish. They'll be like, to hell with this. Literally. To hell with this. I'm not dealing with this clown. I need someone intelligent, someone I can actually respect. Empathic people love intelligent people. Empathic people, I'm talking about high level, cannot live with people who play dumb or are dumb. They can't. It's torture. Absolute torture. But you'll find a high-level codependent can. They tolerate someone's rubbish and lack of intelligence for years and years and years because the qareen of the narcissist has overtaken them as well. Now the qareen has you trauma bonded to the narcissist. It's triangulation. I'm saying it's triangulation. You're under the control of the narc, and he or she is under the control of their qareen. And both of you are under that umbrella. You're both under that umbrella. Before you know it, you've lost everything. Your health, your deen, your faith. You think Allah has completely abandoned you now. You don't even believe in God anymore. You've become atheist, or you're borderline atheist. You believe that your life is just a waste. You hate yourself now. You hate the life that you've lived. That's what happens to people who stay with narcissists for a very long time. This will happen even if you stay with toxic parents for a long time. Toxic friends. Toxic friends can cripple you if you're around them a lot. And I'll do a separate podcast, inshallah, about narc friends. So much I need to get through. But this is what happens. This is why you'll never be able to reason with them, because they have a game plan in mind. It's a contract between them and their qareen. They can't break out of it until they wake up to it and they see it for what it is. The qareen can be so overpowering sometimes that if someone is struggling to gain control over their qareen, it means that their adhkar are not on point. And their adhkar are not on point because their connection with Allah is non-existent or it's very weak. Because if you're reading adhkar but you don't believe in them, or you're reading your adhkar morning and night, to help you have some strength over your qareen, but you don't pray, or you don't pray you don't pray regularly, you don't have a good perception of Allah, because again, a narcissist doesn't have a good perception of anyone. So even when they think of Allah, they think of Allah as a tyrant. They think of Allah as someone who's going to throw them in hell. They believe they're going to hell. So adhkar don't work. If you're reading your adhkar morning and night and you have a bad perception of Allah, I'm telling you, your adhkar and your ruqyah is not going to work. When you read your adhkar, you have to read them with tawakkul. You've got to read them with trust that Allah will protect you from your qareen and from any harm that comes to you that day. If you don't have that trust in Allah to begin with, you're going to struggle with your adhkar. Because your adhkar requires a level of belief. As a basic minimum. There's a basic minimum level. And you can't have that basic minimum level if you're not praying and if you don't see Allah in a good way. As the merciful, the kind, the loving, the forgiving. If you don't see Allah in that way, your adhkar will fly with the wind. Because your qareen knows you don't mean it. It's just words that you're saying. Your qareen is not being affected by your adhkar because they're not being read with conviction. You need to work on that first. Okay, you need to work on establishing prayer again and getting into the habit of praying all 5 on time. Start with 1, perfect that. So for example, get into the habit of, waking up for Fajr consistently every day, and then add Dhuhr. Get into the habit of praying Fajr and Dhuhr consistently, then add Asr. Again, get into the habit of praying all 3 consistently, and then just keep adding them until you do all 5. And then when you commit yourself to the prayers, because you've been disconnected from them for a while, right? Even if you're praying and you're narcissistic, you may pray and it's just a ritual to you. It's got no meaning. You've got no connection with Allah. You need to focus on that first. In order for you to break free from the trauma bond with your qareen, that's where it starts. And I've spoken about this a lot, again, how to elevate your nafs and break free from the qareen's trauma bond in the Ramadan healing series. If you go to the playlist, you'll find all those videos grouped under healing. Okay, it's primarily for narcissists, to help them break free from this. It starts with the establishment of salah again. And step by step, inshallah, people can break free from this. Because, when you see a lot of people, they go for ruqyah, and I get clients, they tell me, I've been to ruqyah for 20 years and I'm still sick. I'm like, do you pray? Do you do this? Do you do that? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, no wonder your ruqyah is not working. And no wonder your adhkar, it's just words to you. That's why they're not working. In order for these to work, you have to have deep belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I hope that's helped you to understand why you cannot reason with a narcissist. And, if you are living with someone who is narcissistic and you can't get out of that relationship, or it's difficult for you to get out of that relationship, then just eliminate the expectation of them fulfilling your wants and needs willingly. They're not going to do it willingly. They won't. You just need to find a way of communicating with them on their level that can get you by with the bare minimum, because that's all you're going to get with a narcissist. Don't ever expect more than the basic minimum. The bare minimum is as good as it's going to get. So unless you turn into someone highly manipulative, you're not going to get more than bare minimum from a narcissist. So the best thing I can do for you in this podcast is just set you free from taking it personally when you cannot reason with a narcissist. Like, inshallah, you've been, set free from that. Your self-esteem has been set free from that. Your self-worth. Now you know it's not about you. Now you know that you're not the crazy one. You're not the dumb one. You're not the stupid one. You're not the one who can't communicate. It's just you're living with someone who sees the world and everything within it in a completely different way that you do. And you're not controlled by your qareen, but they are. So naturally, you're going to see the world in different ways. So before you allow a narcissist to affect you with their qareen and how they've been influenced by their qareen, disconnect yourselves emotionally and tell yourself that this is the relationship I have with this person. I need to do what's best for me in this situation and no longer take what they do to me personally, and no longer allow them to affect me and my character and my faith and my deen and my self-esteem. No, it's not me who isn't able to effectively communicate, because I've tried 10 different ways to communicate this, and this relationship is either going to work on it or it's not. If you're in this situation, get a mediator involved. Sometimes a mediator can help. And the narcissists, by the way, narcissists really hate mediation. They will usually get someone from their side who will enable, their toxic behavior. Like their mother, for example. Oh, yeah, you don't want her as the mediator. You need to get someone neutral. The Quran even says to bring someone neutral. When you need mediation, the person has to be someone neutral, who wants the best outcome for both parties. Again, this might be family counselling with parents, could be marriage counselling, it could be any types of relationships. Get mediation if you need some help. And if you're listening to this and you've just come to the realization that this is what you've been involved in all this time, then just learn how to establish boundaries. I can help you with that. Just contact me. I can coach you through, the establishment of boundaries in dealing with these people and how to protect your health in many ways from being negatively affected by your inability to reason with a narcissist in any relationship. Just email me, author@muslimnarcissist.com. I'm happy to help anyone. I coach men and women, so just email me for information about it, okay? And inshallah, I can help you with that. If you're in a position to not afford counselling and coaching, then there's plenty of content on YouTube that teaches you how to maintain healthy boundaries with narcissists so that you don't take on their trash, right? Their rubbish as your own, because they're projecting and vomiting all of their vile behaviour and their trauma bond, the consequences of their trauma bond with their qareen onto you. Don't be dealing with that. So again, if you're not strong enough to leave a relationship like this or to step away from a relationship like this, because I don't encourage anyone to cut off their parents or other family members, if they are narcissistic, but I encourage you to distance yourselves. Distance yourselves enough so that you can maintain a healthy relationship with those people and where you can maintain realistic expectations of them. Okay, because a lot of people, they get depressed as a result of them falling for the false self of the narc and then having high expectations of them. And then when those expectations aren't met, you take it personally. That's what you need to do. All right. So I hope that's helped, inshallah. I'm going to end it here so it doesn't drag on for too long. I am trying to keep them concise, but it's hard. But I know that all of these details that I speak about in my podcast will be highly beneficial to everyone who is going through this problem. So, as always, please like the podcast if you've found it beneficial. Do share it with others who are going through this. Even if they're not going through it, share it with them so that they can understand, what's going on with these people. And share it with narcissists as well. Narcissists might find this beneficial, inshallah. Just don't send it to your husband or send it to your wife, because I guarantee if you send it to them and they listen to it, they'll be like, that's not me, that's you. That's not me. That's, the whole podcast is talking about you. That's exactly the disorder that you have. They'll just project the whole thing onto you. And they might even call you a narcissist at the end of it, So, I have had a couple of people tell me this, that they sent the podcast that I have recorded to their husbands, and their husbands have said, "Oh my God, that podcast was all about you." The whole thing, that's exactly what I'm going through with you. And it's like, because alhamdulillah, these women were awake and they'd understood, and they've gone through a lot of coaching with me. They learned to not take that personally or get infuriated by that, because they learned that projection is a manipulation tactic of the narcissist. So they will say silly things like that. Let it slide, because now you know. And trust me when I tell you that when they listen to these podcasts, if you do end up sharing it with your mom or your dad or your brother, sister, husband, wife, and they do project it onto you, believe me, one day, whether that's in the near future or the far future, they will remember it. And one day they will think about it. They might be driving somewhere alone, and they'll be like, that was about me. That entire podcast was me. It wasn't her. It wasn't him. That was about me. I saw myself in that podcast. I could relate to all of that, but I could never admit that to anybody. So leave them to it. If they want to project it onto you, let them project it onto you. It doesn't matter. As long as they listen to it, alhamdulillah, that's love and guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that person. Okay, any narcissist, I'm telling you, any narcissist who listens to these podcasts and benefits from them, inshallah, and by understanding this toxic relationship they have with their qareen and how it manifests in their life, in their behavior, in their relationships, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, He's sending love and guidance and mercy to that person so that they can understand and wake up. So if you're a narcissist listening to this until now, I pray that this heals you, opens your eyes, and is seen as a form of guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to finally break free from the darkness that you always find yourselves in. I don't hate people. I don't hate narcissists. I don't hate anyone who's problematic. But I will call out all problematic behaviour in my podcasts. I will slam every single person who thinks that they're getting away with abusing other people. And I will always teach people how to protect themselves from demonic manipulation. So yes, there are many more podcasts coming that will expose the behaviours of toxic people, and it's with the intention to help people save themselves from dealing with demonic people. So please do share this podcast and any other podcasts that I've recorded with other people. Do spread the awareness. Please help me grow this channel so that we can get this information out to more people. Thank you for listening. If you're still with me until now, do grab a copy of the book if you haven't already. It's called The Muslim Narcissist, and it's for narcissists and their victims. So it contains all the information, the foundational information for all of these podcasts. So it's really important to read it. It will inshallah change your life. It will change how you view yourself and other people. You will understand why you are the way you are. Okay, again, whether you're a narcissist or not, you will understand who you are by the time you finish reading the book, inshallah. So do grab a copy. You'll find it on Amazon. I think there are other websites as well that sell it, like Waterstones, Barnes & Noble. So do check it out, inshallah, when you have time. These podcasts are all supplementary to the book. And like I said, there's a lot more coming. So do subscribe to the channel if you would like to hear more. So until the next podcast, inshallah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.